we saw what is a box model and understood that an element is composed of 4 internal boxes. In the same model, we introduced 3 new properties: border, padding, and margin. Border and its sub-properties we have already covered in the previous video. In this video, we will discuss padding and margin. So let's continue with the next property, that is padding. Padding is the space around the content of an element inside its border. Its default value for any element is 0 pixel. Now, let's see how we can add padding to any element with the help of this code. Here we have 3 paragraphs. In the style sheet, we can see that for all the 3 paragraph elements, we have given a border so that we can visualize well. To the first paragraph element, we have not specified any padding and the browser will render this element with default padding value. To the second and third paragraph, we are given padding of 10 pixels each. In the output, we can see there is no padding in the first paragraph. For the second and third paragraph, we can see there is 10 pixels of space between the content and the border on all 4 sides except the right side of the second paragraph. That has got too much additional space. This is because the content in this paragraph is too small, so the extra space remains as such. Now, if we want to specify the different padding values to each side of the element individually, we can enter multiple values of padding at once. To do this, we need to specify all the values of padding like this. Here we have 4 different values of padding. Now, which value corresponds to which side of the element? Remember, the first value is for the top side and it continues in a clockwise manner. This means that the next value will be for the right side. Next to it will be for the bottom side and the last value will be for the left side of the element. So here, the top padding will be of 10 pixels, right padding is of 40 pixels, bottom padding is of 20 pixels, and the left padding is 5 pixels. What if instead of 4 values we define only 3 values? In such cases, the 3 values will correspond to the top, right, bottom side of the element respectively. Since there is no 4th value, the padding for the left side will be kept the same as that of its opposite side, that is the right side. Similarly, if we define only 2 values, they will correspond to the top and right side respectively, and for the sides opposite to them, the values will be taken accordingly. And lastly, what if there is only 1 value? This means that all the sides will have the same padding. Now, since you are aware of the syntax, I would suggest you to assign padding values to the HTML code, which you can download from the helper text and observe the output on your own. Let's now move to the sub-properties of padding. Similar to border sub-properties, padding also has 4 sub-properties. These are padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and padding left. Using these sub-properties, we can choose to add padding to only a specific side of the element. Let's have a look at this example in which we have specified the padding for all the sides individually. In the output, we can see the first paragraph has a padding only on the left side, the second paragraph has a padding only on the right side, the third paragraph has a padding only on the top side, and the last paragraph has a padding only on the bottom side. Next, we will move to the next property, that is margin. Margin is the space around the element outside its border. It is added to maintain space between adjacent elements. The default value of margin is different for different elements. For a paragraph, the default value of left and right margin is 0 pixel, but for the top and bottom margin, it is the same as its font size. Just like padding, margin can also have any of 1 to 4 space separated values. The order of these values is exactly the same as that in padding. That is, the first value is for the top side, and then we will move in a clockwise direction for the subsequent values. Margin also has 4 sub-properties: margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. Using these sub-properties, we can choose to add margin to only a specific side of the element. Let's look at the syntax. Well, it is simple. Selector followed by the property value pair. Again, here is a small exercise that you should do. Download the HTML code from below the video and define margin property value and margin sub-properties values to different elements and observe the output. The next property is height and width. These properties are used to specify the height and width of an element. Again, to specify them for any element, the syntax is simple. We just need to write the name of the property followed by the value. We can enter the value in any length units. But note that height and width have one more possible value, that is auto. Auto value means the minimal space needed to fit in the content. Now the default value of height is auto, and the default value of width is different for different elements. And it may not be possible to specify height and width for every HTML element. This is something you have to remember for now, and we will discuss it in detail in the next topic. Now when we define the heights and width of an element, the actual height and width are always more than the defined. This is because we define the height and width only of the content part without considering the border, padding, or the margin. Let's see how. Actual height occupied is equal to border top plus padding top plus defined height plus padding bottom plus border bottom. And the actual width defined is equal to the border left plus padding left plus defined width plus padding right plus border right. Let us understand with the help of this code. Here we have two paragraphs, and for both the paragraph we have specified height and width as 100 pixel and 300 pixel respectively. But the second paragraph is additionally given a padding of 20 pixel on all the four sides. In the output we can see even if both the paragraphs are given the same height and width, the second paragraph takes more space both horizontally and vertically. This is due to the additional padding. So what happens is that the height and width we have provided to these paragraphs are applied only to the content part of the element, that is to the content box. Hence, the content box of both these paragraphs is of the same size. The padding is outside the content box, and that's why the second paragraph takes more space than the first paragraph. Do you think this is an ideal behavior that we specify some height and width and in the output we get a different height and width? No, right? To fix this behavior, we have the box sizing property. The box sizing property defines which box, that is the content box or the border box, the height and width properties will be applied on. This property has two values, border box and content box. The default value of this property is content box, which is the reason when we specify the height and width to any element, it gets applied only to the content box. Let's add the property value pair to the code which we used earlier and observe the difference. Here we go. Both the paragraphs now take the same amount of space. This is because now the padding and border are also included in the height and width of the content. Now let's say we have multiple elements in our HTML code and we want to apply box sizing property to all of them. To do this, we need to add this code snippet at the top of the CSS file. The star or asterisk signs means the box sizing property will be applied to all the elements. Before we end this video, I would strongly recommend you to practice all the properties and sub-properties which we have covered in this topic in any HTML code and observe the output. Try to change the values and see the difference. This will certainly help you while creating a website. So up next is a quiz. All the best.